been driving for a while and you feel like you've hit a plateau and you're just not improving anymore. You've upgraded your hardware, but you're still not able to be as fast as you would like. Well, guess what? I did that too, okay? I'm as guilty as you are. And that's exactly why Racine and myself created what we call the advanced way to learn. By using the techniques that we're about to show you, we were able to win national championships, and we're now coaching real-life drivers and sim racers all across the globe. So let me tell you why you absolutely need this to improve your racing skills. On this platform, you'll go through 5 learning steps. The first one is going to be to watch video lessons so you can take in all that theory. The second step will be to answer quizzes. We've created some questions to test your knowledge. Next, you'll have to partake in challenges. Here, you'll have to prove to yourself that you can apply what you've learned. You'll go on track and you'll try to beat the instructor's lap times or sector times. Following the challenge, you'll be able to send your onboard replay so instructors and other community members can help you improve. And lastly, you can get involved in the community to meet some new teammates and learn from others. This platform is a back and forth discussion between us, the instructor, and you, the students. If you're serious about becoming the best driver out there, this is the advanced way to learn.
With the Buttkicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Buttkicker, the future is feeling.
It's Road America tonight for us, serving as a bit of a preview for this weekend's Petit Le Mans. It's Monday night, and of course, your dose of PRL action is from the LMP3 GT4 Challenge. And it's going to be another step on the road for the 2024 Season 4 Championship here on RaceSpotTV. I cannot wait to get this race underway. An hour's worth of racing coming up very shortly for you watching along on the RaceSpotTV YouTube channel. Myself, Darth Acker, Reese Gardner alongside me in the broadcast booth as always. And it's Hugo Luis pressing all the buttons and making the broadcast look wonderful. Reese, round 3, Road America. I mean, this circuit is so synonymous with prototype cars, GT cars. I cannot wait to get this race underway, and it serves as a bit of a change up from Suzuka last week.
Yeah, indeed. Here at Road Atlanta for the third round of the season, and it's a classic American road racing course, you know, to say the least. Built in 1970, and you know, it's been providing action ever since then. The layout's only changed like once over the course of that time. There's been a few other upgrades to the circuit over the years, but it's remained the classic layout that we love. And you can say that about a few of the circuits here. There's plenty of classics on this schedule. We went to Suzuka last round, we go to Hungaroring next week, and Manicourt, very underrated circuit, I have to say. Hockenheim, of course, has been through quite a few changes, but I think the current layout's pretty good. Laguna Seca, you know, what more can you say about that hasn't already been said? A fantastic track. Algarve and Red Bull Ring to end off the season. What a schedule we've got ahead of us.
Yes, and of course, by I meant Road America. I told myself 15,000 times not to say Road America, but I said it, and we were at Road Atlanta, obviously. I'm very sorry about that. Here are the LMP3 standings, though, as we go through 2 rounds, and it's tied at the top. Bryce Lavando, 105. Mobin Khan, 105. They lead Zach Hewitt by only 5 in a very good-looking championship. Stephen Lakota, Lando Tager, and Michael Diaz are in the next little clump on 85, 84, and 84, and they still continue to be close. Michael Diaz, Christian Garreton, Ian Starker, Kyle Harner, and Daniel Oliver are the top 10 in the LMP3. Over in the Teams Championship, it's Selprec Precision Racing who have 200 points and lead by a relatively good distance. Drive Trainer Motorsports are in P2 ahead of Speed Squad, Why Not P1 Scuderia, Dunkersaur LMP3, great name for a team, and Echelon SimSport LMP3. Sim Total Racers, Grant's Garage, Maradness M Squad, Championship Racing Collective, and the Fenson Brothers round out the top 10 in the LMP3s. Over in the GT4s, it's some regular suspects: Aaron Myers, Matthew Wyckoff, and Aidan Young, the top 3. Aidan Young maybe wanting to overtake here Aaron Myers and Matthew Wyckoff tonight. We'll see what he can do. Jeremy Rogers and Michael Terrafino 4th and 5th, with Manella and Kate Smith tied on 91. Guignac and Willie Brennan both have 85 ahead of Dan Rutherford, rounding out the top 10, who has 75 points to his name. And over in the teams in the GT4 standings, we will find out who is leading the way, and of course it's Chasing the Delta, 212 points for them, and with a nice margin back to Team Beef ahead of Vision Esports, Valhalla Motorsport, and Hyperion Racing, who are the top 5. Scuderia, Dunkersaur, No Team, again, great name, Middle of the Pack Racing, Fiercely Forward, and Mad Sim Racing are the top 10 teams through the opening couple of rounds. And before, of course, we get in towards the action, we have to thank our sponsors who make this broadcast possible for us all, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Buttkicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Maradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Marad. Mr. Hedge Sim Racing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. It is, of course, a great addition to any sim room. And Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on all their socials to become a better driver, and I'm sure they are on pretty much every social you, lovely viewers, are on as well. So make sure you follow them as well. So then, we thank our sponsors to get into the coverage, and the coverage we're going to show you immediately, of course, race is qualifying. Can be so important here at Roads Atlanta. Tricky to make moves here, and it's a relatively tight circuit, particularly in the opening sector through the S's. This session could be critical.
Yeah, certainly could. Lap 1 here is going to be massive, not just lap 1, of course, but the first time that the LMP3s come around to lap the GT4s, because, yeah, it's a massively difficult circuit right in the middle of the track. You know, the opening sector of this place, it has so many corners spaced very closely together. Fast and flowing, yes, brilliant to drive on your own, but if you're trying to get past someone, it's a little difficult. You have to wait until the straight to try and really make your moves, and The best spot for overtaking is going to be at the opposite end of this straight that Jean-Sébastien Bedard has just entered, the 10A and 10B chicane. It's going to be a difficult braking zone, to say the least. You got to make sure that you are alongside before you get in there. Obviously, traffic is going to be a big concern, which is why qualifying is going to matter so much.
Yeah, let's see who can absolutely nail the lap. Not the longest of lap times as well. 1 minute 14 for Maxime Grenon, who currently leads the way by just the barest of margins. Mobin Khan, 2 poles from 2 so far this season. He's looking to go for the hat-trick, but he's going to have to overcome about the same amount of time as for a blink of an eye. In fact, an extra 10th has been added by Maxime Grenon, who set a 14.2. Jeremy Manella in the GT4s, the number 26 driver, coming through the turn 10 chicane, looking to set a lap time on the board. Nothing yet for the Porsche driver. Where will he be able to put himself? We've said how critical it is to get a good qualifying lap in, but he's not got a banker on the board. How good can this be from the 26 driver? We'll see him pop up in the end. It's a 26.665, and it's only good enough for P17 for now.
Yeah, difficult to get a consistent lap together at Road Atlanta. Boris Ovando has just gone P2 in LMP3. Michael Diaz, his teammate there, improving to a 114.5, and also seeing a big improvement from Justin Bragan in the in the GT4 class, up to 6th, as Aaron Myers has just taken pole. We've been talking about this ever since round 1 and continuing on into Suzuka. The GT4 battle between Aiden Young and Aaron Myers, it was absolutely scintillating last season, and here in 2024 season 4, it seems like Aaron Myers has the edge over Aiden Young.
It's an intriguing little battle, isn't it? Because, of course, we've not been away for too long since we were in Season 3 in the LMP3 GT4 Challenge, albeit the races were shorter, but not by a great deal, and that's not going to change around too much. Aiden Young took 6 wins and 7 poles in the 9 races. Aaron Myers took 1 win and 1 pole. So far this season, it's 2 poles and looking like 3 for Aaron Myers if he can hold on to it, and none for Aiden Young, just the 1 win apiece as well. So clearly there's a little bit of a changing in the balance of power between Aaron Myers and Aiden Young, but there is no doubt that the power stays with the 2 of them and everyone is chasing them. Just look at the gap from Aiden Young back to Maxime David. Half a second it is after the 700s at the top 2. That might change though. Aiden Young through the final corner, the reigning champion in this category and in this series. Can he improve? It's a 24.636, and he does go to original pole, but again, by the barest of margins. This is so close.
I love this, I always love when it looks like Aaron Myers has finished his qualifying run, so has Aiden Young, so those are the times that they will set. There was a late improvement from Maxime David, Michael Terrafino, and Cade Smith, all very competitive in the Mercedes in the GT4 class, but for now, just 2 minutes left in the session. We'll see if the round 1 pole sitter, Mobin Khan, and round 2 pole sitter, for that matter, will manage to get 3 in a row here. Daniel Zegers has gone to pole position, and it's the only car in the 113s for the moment, and Mobin can only set a 114.5 there. That was a 10th slower than his fastest. He won't have time for another lap, I think, so we'll have to wait and see where he ends up. For now, it looks like Daniel Zegers is just about safe on pole position. The only LMP3 cars out there, Christian Garreton, and waiting to see what time he'll be able to set as Bragan comes across the line. 125.6. That is just a couple hundredths off his fastest. So late in the session, Dara, it seems drivers are having trouble improving.
Yeah, but Daniel Zegers, he wasn't here last week at Suzuka, was here for the first week a couple of weeks ago at Indianapolis, and did take a top 5 home with him. So even though he's a little bit further back in the championship, you won't have seen him in the top 10. He is still a driver to be reckoned with, and clearly showing a bit of that pace. Christian Garreton, any improvement for him in the 57? The answer is yes, actually. I was about to say no, but he's gone ahead of Mobin Khan, and the 57 puts it up into P5 and replaces Khan, inside that top 5 and really putting a challenge to the likes of Ovando and Zegers. Gabriel Gignac is looking for a lap time as well, coming towards turn 10 now. But a couple of these drivers, they've got to get to the line in time because time is really ticking away now.
Yeah, it certainly is. Gabriel has had a bit of a difficult season so far. He does sit 8th in the standings, but yeah, he hasn't quite been able to get to the top echelon like he would have been hoping. We'll have to see if he can make that final improvement here at the end of the session. Across the line he comes, and it is going to elevate him up to 33rd overall, 14th in class, and that is the end of the qualifying session. Very close field up the top.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to get to see those pole laps. I'm sure we will, of what unfolded on these laps. It's going to be an interesting comparison to make between the LMP3s and the GT4s, particularly through that opening chicane. I also see, when I was quickly looking in the YouTube chat there, that Hugo was very helpfully helping me out in the YouTube chat as well, to remember that it was Road Atlanta. But great to see all of you in there as well. Great to see so many of you getting involved. We always have quite a good chat on a Monday night, and it's lovely to see all of you in here again. But this is our opening pole lap of the night. It's Daniel Ziegers in the LMP3s, and Reese, this is going to be quite a technical lap.
Oh, certainly is. Turn 1, very fast, uphill. You want to try and avoid that curb on the outside, otherwise you'll get sucked right off the racetrack. See that tree on the right? That is your point for braking. For turn 3, it's there and gone just like that. And then through the S's, coming down to what is Marshall post number 5, turn 5. You got to try and straight line these curbs and then run all the way across here, across the bumps. It's a very difficult sequence in a stiffly sprung LMP3 race car. And then up through turn 6, slightly banked. You can carry a lot of speed through here. Instantly on the brakes for turn 7, just touching the curb on the exit. Traction is so important around here, Dara, and all he's got now is the long wait down to 10A and 10B. It's where you hope that you've gotten the right exit from turn 7, because 10A and 10B, man, they are difficult to get right. They're faster than they look, and it's very easy to get an off track here. You want to try and just cut the curbs a little bit. Don't get too far on the grass. Run all the way across the curb, over the crest, and then flat out in these cars through the final corner.
Yeah, and it looks that fast in an LMP3. You just wonder how bad it would look if we were in the GTP GT3 series. But we might have to wait a little longer for that one. So you've got to put that into consideration. Of course, I mentioned at the top of the show, Petit Le Mans this weekend in IMSA. Going to be really interesting to see how that goes this weekend. One of the classics, as is Aiden Young, one of the classics of this series in the GT4s. He's going to start his lap crossing the line. And we're going to see how much different it is for the GT4s. Of course, we talk about how low-speed corners, there's not much difference between these two categories of machines, but in these medium and high-speed corners, you can see the difference just that little bit more. Rising over that crest and now diving down the hill goes Aiden Young through the ride into the left, and just make sure you keep it A, pinned, and B, online. If you get offline at all, you're going to find yourself very much losing a couple of tenths, having to correct it all the way down the hill. Get through the flick here, the left-hander. Don't go too far wide. You can get airtime if you bounce over there a little bit too harsh, and Aiden Young keep making sure that he stays well within the track limits into 6 and 7. I think it's fair to say that turn 7 race is the most point in the racetrack. You need a good exit out of here if you want to either A, make a move, or B, defend your position.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said on the LMP3 pole lap, traction is the most important thing out of that corner. And you know, every single time I do a lap at Road Atlanta, I can never quite get it right. My delta always seems to go into the red out of there, and I can never figure out why. But fortunately for Aiden Young, he nailed it. And through 10A and 10B, nice and smooth. You notice his wheel work this entire lap. He hasn't been turning the wheel all that much. That tells me that car is very pointy, and it's very stable as well as he crosses the line to end his pole lap. Lap in the LMP3s, just about a minute 14 at the very top. For Aiden Young, it was a 124.6 to end things off there. Man, I'm looking forward to this race. The competition is incredibly close here in these early stages of the season. We still don't know exactly who is going to be on top in either class.
No, exactly, and that's what really keeps us on our toes. It's also great, I know we've mentioned it a couple of times over the course of the start of the season, but it's worth mentioning every time. It's an hour-long race. It's longer than we've had in the last couple of seasons, and it is great to see because we get more action. We get a little bit more in terms of the strategy game, some drivers having to think a little bit more about how they're going to run their race, and it gives the drivers a little bit longer to make their battles, to fight them out, and it gives us more action to watch. So I cannot wait to see how this goes. A full hour at Road Atlanta is going to be great. And for a race that's still kind of in the early stages of the championship, there's still going to be a few drivers who maybe didn't have the best opening couple of rounds. This is really where they need to kick their season on. The likes of Daniel Zegers, who wasn't here last week but would like to put himself into a conversation for possibly getting involved in that LMP3 Drivers' Championship if he can. This is the kind of race where you're going to have to perform and really put your name amongst the top guys that have already put their names up there. Oh, we've got the grid. Sorry, I'm looking away. I was looking away. Looking at the standings, actually, but I'll look at the grid now and talk you through it. Daniel Zegers and Boris Angel Lavando will take us away off of the line on the front row. Maxime Granon and Michael Diaz, row 2. Header Christian Garreton and Mobin Khan on row number 3. It's Jason Drescher and Eric Fenson, row 4, with Daniel Oliver and Zach Hebert. Zach Hebert, of course, in that championship picture on row 5. Stephen Lakota, Chase Wilson, they're row 6, as they are the top 12 in the LMP3s, and they keep coming. Lando Taylor, Ian Starker and Fernando Rodriguez, your top 15, with Kyle Harner, Nikos Sanadakis and Lucas Wallace being the top 18. Just the one more driver is Andre Jameson. He will line up 19th and last in that LMP3 field. Over in the GT4s, you wouldn't have guessed it, it's Aiden Young and Aaron Myers on the front row, but for the first time this season, it is going to be Aiden Young on pole. Maxime David and Michael Terrafino on row 2 with Kate Smith and Darren Rutherford on row number 3. The top 10 are rounded out by Matthew Wyckoff, Willie Brennan, Caelan Tobin and Kurt Ham, with Justin Bragan and Tristan Cadit on the outside, just about looking in. With John Sebastian Bedard and Gabriel Gignac on row 7, it's Keith Gwinnett and Lambert Jesse on row number 8. Jeremy Manella, Steve Gow on row 9, with Roy Brown and Matt Benson inside the top 20. Ewan Brown, Robert McGinn and Travis Pruitt, the 23 drivers we have. 23 plus 17 is 40. 20 rows worth of drivers for us to get our teeth into this evening. And I will go back to my point I was making just before we got to the grid there, Reese. This is going to be a key race for some of the drivers who really need to get some points on the board.
Yeah, indeed, and it's going to be quite difficult around a track like Road Atlanta because there's such a great challenge around this place. And there's a few drivers who were here at round 1, but unfortunately missing a couple of rounds. Adam Brockway in particular, who won the opening round of the season. It's an absolute disaster for him in the most literal sense, because he was unfortunately caught up in the after effects of Hurricane Helene, and now the next hurricane that's coming around as well, he's having to evacuate once again. He got his rig set up, he was practicing for Road Atlanta, and then the warnings came. So it looks like our round 1 winner won't be able to complete the rest of the season. That is such a shame for Adam Brockway, and we certainly hope that if you are in the hurricane affected areas in the United States, you're keeping safe and everything's working out okay for you. But for now, here we are on the formation lap. Plenty of space being left between the LMP3s and the GT4s. Aiden Young versus Aaron Myers on the front row. Matchup for the ages once again. I can't wait to see who comes out on top here.
Yeah, this is going to be quite an exciting race. There's no doubt about that. And I completely have to say that I second your comments and wish everybody who has been affected by Helene and will be affected by Milton stays safe. We are thinking about you at this time, and we hope that we can see you guys on the other side of what should hopefully be a peaceful week for many, and hopefully we get some good racing for so many of these guys. I mean, they will be focusing on this race, but they will also be looking out for the others, their competitors in this series. As we know, PRL is such a tightly knit community, and it is great to see when everybody does look out for each other. But I'll tell you what, the front two, they're not going to be looking out for each other, let's be real, on this opening corner, because turn one is so critical. Who's going to be gaining the advantage as we run our way through? It's Daniel Zegers, it's our championship leader Boris Avando, who's looking to extend that championship advantage as we run through the final corner. The pace car is in, and we are racing 1 hour's worth here at Road Atlanta, and it will be a very good launch there for Daniel Zegers as we get down towards the opening corner. Avando can't do anything about it and is under pressure for P number 2, and in fact I think he's lost it to Maxime Grenon, and he has indeed. So the championship leader losing out a little bit of ground off of the line, but we'll see what he can do from P3. Meanwhile in the GT4s, it is Aaron Myers, Aiden Young I should say, sorry, who gets away. It's Aaron Myers looking to stay in P2 as Maxime David tries to come around the outside.
Yeah, very early getaway by Aiden Young. He accelerated over the crest coming into the final corner. So Aaron Myers has already lost a bit of an advantage. There goes Michael Terrafino up to third spot. Maxime David in the BMW trying his best to defend, but could not do it. Have to be single file through the S's. It's so difficult to run side by side through this section of the racetrack. Terrafino looking for a good result, and unfortunately messing up the exit of turn 5 a little as it's on for the lead of the LMP3 class. Zegers is in front, but Maxime Grenon is pressuring him. They've got the duo from Solpec Precision Racing just behind them. Michael Diaz following Boris Avando, and there's a little bit of pressure being put on Christian Garaton from Mobin Khan as lap 1 concludes.
Yeah, and a couple of drivers in the pit lane, you can just about see them there, not having the best of launches. I think that was 5 cars on pit road, so clearly not the cleanest of starts at the back of the field, but I mean, it is quite tied up here at the start of the S's, so maybe to be expected. Zegers, though, looking a little bit under pressure from Maxime Grenon. The fast-starting 332 is looking like he may be trying to go from third to first in the space of the opening couple of laps. Tight lines as well as we make our way out of the S's. Oh, that's what happened before. That is a massive hit, and that's what I talked about getting airtime. I mentioned it, I think, on the pole lap that we saw. You can go too far wide, lose complete control of your car, and that's exactly what we saw there.
Yeah, it's Daniel Oliver and Jason Drescher involved in that one. That's a real shame to see. But and Jean-Sebastien Bedard there now at the back of the GT4 field. Big pile up coming out of turn 3. Man, that involved multiple cars there as Lambert Jesse was turned around. Roy Brown tried to take avoiding action, but it was just too little too late for him and for quite a few other drivers as well. Oh man, that's such a shame to see.
Yeah, and gutting for a couple of these guys on the opening couple of laps. Roy Brown not having the best of times in his Mercedes. I don't know, wow. For half a second there was a couple of frames where we saw something going on behind. It may have been Jean-Sebastien Bedard. Indeed it was, going off the road. And that's exactly, we just about saw the very last moment of that on the previous replay. And tickled me a bit. Anyway, back to the live racing action. We're only 3 minutes in. We're already 2 laps down. It is worth thinking about how many laps we are going to get to in this race, and the fact that it is quite a short lap. We're going to see quite a few passes from the LMP3s of the GT4s. We mentioned it near the top of the show, but it's worth mentioning again because this race is going to be defined by the traffic. How well can the LMP3s get through the GT4s? We saw some contact with some leaders in Indianapolis. I think for these guys at the front, Zegers, Grenon, Avando, that first pass is going to be so critical, as Stark is going to have to do some recovery work.
Yep, that's yet another car that spun out of turn 5 there. The bumps over that curb, which you have to take for the fastest line through the corner. Unfortunately, putting paid to the suspension of these LMP3s. Well, the lead is still on, and Zegers is having a bit of difficulty here trying to keep Maxime Grenon behind him. Grenon with a fantastic run out of the final corner there, but he's not going to go for the move in turn 1. There's an opportunity here to fuel save a little bit. Road Atlanta is a track where it's a bit hard to pass on, particularly through the first half of the lap, so probably better off staying behind there as the battle continues in GT4. This is the battle for 4th place. Cade Smith keeping Maxime David behind him. Darren Rutherford in the McLaren starting to jet up to the back of the BMW.
Yeah, this is a good little fight at the front of the GT4 class, and David just breaking out of the slipstream. Oh, so that was Rufford breaking out of the slipstream just a touch, but nothing doing on Maxime David. Here's Eric Fenson. That is not the line, spinning around, hitting the wall, and Eric Fenson losing complete control over the crest at turn 2, I think that was. So disappointing for Eric Fenson. I think the Fenson team, of course, not doing the best, or having the best of starts of the season in the opening couple of rounds. Here is the battle for the lead, though, in the LMP3s. Grenon looks fast. He's gone to the lead, and he will go from third to first in the opening 5 minutes.
Oh, not a good exit from 10B, though. Zegers is going to try and come back at him. All this battling for the lead has brought Ovando and Diaz right into it, and Ovando's going to try and get further up onto the podium places. He's giving Zegers a little push as into turn 1 they go side by side, and onto the curb for Maxime Grenon. That ruins the run, and he's going to have to yield. Can Diaz even get past him there? No. Michael has to back out there and put himself under pressure from Mobin Khan, who makes a little bit of contact on him just a little off screen there, and that spread out the top 6. What this has done is it's helped out Christian Garreton. He was having a bit of trouble earlier, but now all this battling has brought him right back into the fight.
Great opportunism there for Boris Angelovando, championship leader, to get back up into P number 2. This is Keith Gwinnett, I think, and this is the car we may have just lapped, but Keith Gwinnett having some issues in the number 3 car, going around at turn 1, just losing the rear end, feeling a little bit like a lazy spin, but you won't be too pleased about that. Now, here come the GT4s. This battle for the lead has been intense for the last couple of minutes. They may have to put it on hold, or unless someone can find some kind of opportunistic move in the class as we get through on the GT4s. Into turn 10A and 10B goes one car. This is not where you want to be overtaking some GT4s. This is 1, 2, 3 of them. Ovando on the inside. Grenon gets 2 of them, and off the track goes one of the GT4s to avoid.
Yeah, it was Lambert Jesse who was spun on lap 1 by Jean-Sebastien Bedard. That was the reason for the crash that we saw on the first lap in the GT4 class. But traffic is going to be paramount here for success if you're an LMP3 driver. You want to be aggressive, but you don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to ruin a GT4's race. The stewards won't look very kindly on that. So it's a balancing game. Do you go for the move, make the pass, hope that your rival gets held up, or do you sit behind and risk getting past?
And this is going to be quite a predicament for quite a few of these guys. So many GT4s that they are going to have to work their way through. Look at this. This is Willie Brennan. This is the train further up towards turn 10A and 10B. I'm going to be honest, the top 3 in the LMP3s aren't that far off, but they've got a little ways to go. You can see how hard fought it is. Willie Brennan actually having to defend his position in P8 as there's contact. The LMP3 leaders come through. They're going to find a car facing the wrong way. They all to avoid, but Maxime Grenon soaring at the steering wheel just to make sure he doesn't lose the rear end. This is frantic action right now.
My goodness, well, good on everybody for avoiding Willie Brennan there. He stopped in a very inconvenient place. I mean, holding the brakes, doing the right thing, but yeah, it would have been very scary for everyone coming up on him there. Fortunately, there was enough space either side for them to get through. Good heads-up driving from the drivers there. Meanwhile, the lead has, well, it's fallen away for Boris Ovando. Oh no, there goes Zegers making contact with the Aston Martin, and he's going to fall back in turn 5. This is exactly what we were fearing.
Yeah, and I can't help, again, we only saw it from the front on, but I can't help but feel that Daniel Zegers maybe went a little bit too opportunistic there. So tricky to go past the GT4 through the S's, and maybe he's become a bit of a victim of his own opportunism there. It's let Boris Angelovando, the championship leader, take the lead in the race, but Maxime Grenon is right there once again. They are going to be fighting for the lead in the midst of these GT4s. Towards the turn 10 chicane we go once again. Can Grenon go for the move? Inside, outside, ducking and diving. We've got a little bit of room before the next couple of GT4s, but Grenon not going to make any kind of full-on send, and they will stay line of stern as they make their way towards the line once again, but that got oh so close. This is what we saw a lap ago. Willie Brennan to the inside. We saw it on the inset. We'll see it in big now. And he just got on the grass there and spun around.
Yeah, there was a bit of overlap there, but unfortunately, probably the move wasn't on. Meanwhile, here's Zegers. Kalen Tobin is the Aston Martin that he hit. Unfortunately, coming into turn 5, just came across the curb and was was completely fired into Tobin there, off into the gravel trap, and there's the spun Kalen Tobin, who will be decidedly unhappy with that. You don't really expect cars to be making moves around the outside of the entry to turn 5 there.
No, and I think there wasn't any expected move on from Kalen Tobin, and he kind of took more of a racing line and maybe got a little bit surprised when a car came bouncing across the curb and absolutely flying into him, and I don't think he'll be terribly pleased at that. But regardless, the drivers who have benefited from that, not least Mobin Khan, poor qualifying from him after he's had 2 poles so far this season, back up into the top 3 and looking to pick up some nice solid points, trying to chase down Boris Angel Levandu, of course, the driver he is racing in the championship picture. Zach Hebert, he qualified in the top 10, but I believe it was 10th. He's back up into P6 now. He's 3rd in the championship, looking to try and stay there or maybe get into the top 5 ahead of Christian Garreton.
Looks like that's Chase Wilson getting past Stephen Licata there, and a good move indeed. They're coming up on the battle for 3rd in GT4. Michael Terrafino and Cade Smith. Terrafino in the cow liveried Mercedes there. It's a 3-way fight between these guys. Chase Wilson and then Licata and Wallace, the teammates, it seems, now chasing him down, making their way cleanly through turn 3. All of these LMP3s coming through has split up the battle for 3rd in GT4, and Cade Smith now holds on to that position. He was able to get past Terrafino, I believe, either at turn 1 or the run up to turn 3.
Yeah, and this is looking very close, isn't it, between Lakota and Wilson. Through we go into 6 and 7. You mentioned in the qualifying lap how fast it is. You really get a sense of the speed on that off-board camera of how fast they go through that right-hander, and really the braking zone happens at turn 7. It's more of an entry rather than anything else. Let's see if there's any change of positions. Of course, they have to be worrying, well, they have to be mindful of the fact that they've got a driver in front who they may have a shared goal of catching, and they won't be fighting down in towards the turn 10 chicane as they try and overtake the GT4 leader, Aiden Young. Normally, when you pass the GT4 leader, you'd think, I'm free, I've got a little bit of time before I get back to the GT4s. But with the field spread already in that secondary category here this evening, it's not going to be long before you're seeing some of those slower cars once again.
Yeah, indeed. Aiden Young just making his way through turn 1 as Travis Pruitt, the last running of the GT4s on the lead lap, is currently coming down the back straight to 10A and 10B, so there's not much room for resting for the LMP3s. Here's Matthew Wyckoff trying to get into P5. Got Darren Rutherford for company as an LMP3 makes their way through. That was clean. That was all right, I think, but it's a small spot of light in what has been a very dark race for a lot of the GT4s here. I wouldn't want to be in the driver's seat in either class for this. It's looking quite stressful as Nikos Sanadakis goes off at turn 6.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in Nikos Sanadakis' seat right now either. I don't think he's going to be too pleased whatever has happened down at turn number 6. Here comes the frantic action once again towards turn 10. This is what happened to Sanadakis, and this is looking like a bit of a weird moment. Oh, someone's trying it up the inside. That's an opportunistic place to make a move, and I don't think Sanadakis is going to be too pleased about that one.
No, certainly not. I'm going back to see who that driver was, and it looks like it was Lando Tiga, who has come under fire a little bit for being a bit too aggressive in the first couple of rounds. Well, we'll have to wait and see whether Sanadakis can recover from that. Meanwhile, the number 10 trying his best, Kyle Harner here to get past Lando Tiga, and Eric Fenson spinning again. He's done exactly the same thing that he did when we saw his first crash on the replay. Caught the curb on the outside of the run into turn 3, and now Daniel Zegers has had another issue out of turn 5. Man, our pole sitter has gone from hero to zero.
Yeah, this is looking horrible, isn't it, for Daniel Zegers? This is clearly becoming a bit of a race of attrition at the moment. Here's Fenson through turn 1. It's not the same place again, is it? Not the same mistake twice. Ooh! Almost like he got a bit of a bounce before he even got to the turn in there, but regardless, he has spun around in exactly the same place he was just a couple of minutes ago. And what of Daniel Zegers? Did he try and overtake a car in the same place? No. Through the left-hander, bouncing his way, airtime spinning around. He's going to cost himself so much time there. These are mistakes that you feel are relatively common at this circuit because you're pushing so hard, and the limit can be found quite harshly here, can't it?
Yeah, certainly can. Road Atlanta is a circuit where you have to use the curbs in order to be fast, but those curbs are quite harsh, and as you can see, just look at the way they bounce coming up the hill out of turn 5. Very difficult to keep control of the car there. You have to be precise, you have to be aggressive, but you've also got to take a degree of care on the way to the apex. Well, we'll see whether or not our leaders will be able to... Oh no, Robert McGeehan getting tapped around there in turn 3 by an LMP3. I think they'll have to calm things down here. I'm not looking forward to the stewards report from this round. It seems like a lot of the LMP3s have been making moves that aren't really justified.
Yeah, and I think it goes back. I did see a comment in the YouTube chat before we got going about they were hoping that the LMP3s were a little bit cleaner today, but at the moment doesn't necessarily look like it's been squeaky enough for the GT4's liking at least. And one thing I was going to mention about Eric Fenson actually, because I had a quick thought about it and I indeed was right, but I'll mention after we look at Daniel Ziegers, the pole sitter, fighting over P13. He's not where he would want to be after the opening few laps, but he's going to hold off Nikos Sanidakis, who's had his own problems. I was going to mention about Eric Fenson because, of course, last season we had both this championship, the LMP3 GT4 Challenge, and the GTP GT3 Series on the same night, meaning that drivers couldn't race in both. Now, Eric Fenson was racing as a GT3 driver on Monday nights last season, but with the addition of the new date and the separation of the two, he's now been able to race in the LMP3s, but it's clearly not going as well for him in Season 4 as the GT3s were going for him in Season 3, so we hope that he can get a little bit further up the field, but it's nice to see him in lots of different machinery here in PRL. Still battles going on. Mobin Khan doing a good job in P3.
Yeah, I wanted to mention about Eric Fenson. Actually, the first time I ever encountered him was in an LMP3. There was a sports car series being run down here in Australia in the LMP3s, and Fenson and his brother William, I believe, were racing in it, so he does have experience in these cars, but of course that was a fixed setup series. This is open setup LMP3, so maybe he's having a little bit more difficulty adjusting as he's continuing to work his way up through the ranks. This battle for the lead is still going on here between Ovando and Granon, and it looks like Maxime is going to go for it at turn 6. Took advantage of a bit of GT4 traffic there. Ovando backing out a little bit as he tried to make his way past Gignac there in the Porsche, and Granon was right there to see the door open, and he walked straight through it.
Yeah, good move there. Mobin Khan looking to try and get back at Michael Diaz now, but going to be tricky, no doubt about that. Very quick point I was going to make then on William Fenson. Of course, he is P2 in the championship early on in the season over in the GT3 Fixed Series, and that'll be on tomorrow night, of course. Tune in at about 8:30 Eastern time for that one tomorrow night for the GRL Fixed and Sprint Series. GRL, there'll be GT3 in the PRL. Gosh, there's too many acronyms. I can't remember them all. I can't even remember if it's Road America or Atlanta. Anyway, back to the racing. Kyle Harner definitely fighting over P10. This is into turn 10, and they're nearly going to go side by side, but just about going to get out of it. Another little moment on the exit as well, and Stephen Lakota might try and come up the inside of Kyle Harner through the final corner. That's bold.
Yeah, there's not enough space for him to get it done there, or not enough momentum is the correct word. There was the space there. Kyle Harner saw him coming and left space, but didn't really need to in the end. Now they're coming up on another GT4. It's Ewan Brown, who's down in 18th in class, trying to chase down Keith Gwinnett. And fortunately, the first two cars in the LMP3 pack, they make their way past cleanly, but he does have to compromise his line coming through turn 4. Man, this is such a difficult race if you're a GT4 driver. You know, you want to try and run your line. You want to be predictable, but sometimes your hand is forced.
Yeah, but
something's happened to Wyckoff here. Oh, sorry. My apologies.
No, I think he's just liking it to P5. Yeah, he's just fighting for P5 inside line. He's just a little bit further down than we're used to seeing him this season, but he's got up the inside. Great move there from the number 4 driver, looking to try and assist his teammate Aaron Myers, but currently a few positions back on where he would want to be. Quick little note of something I've just seen in the YouTube chat. Jeff Calfold is in the chat, just to ask that I've mentioned that William Fenton is P2. Who's P1? Well, it is, of course, Jeff Calfold. Great to see you watching along on a Monday night, Jeff. I can't wait to see you tomorrow, but great to see these battles as well, because all around the circuit, I mean, these are only 2 of the battles. There are clearly more ongoing. A short circuit, so many cars on the grid, and it's why we're getting treated to such great racing here.
Indeed. Oh no, big drama. Oh dear. Stephen Lakota just avoiding massive contact between Kyle Harner and Lambert Jesse, and Harner is out. And well, that's what happens when you try to pass someone into turn 3 and get back on the racing line, but the car is still there. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. Looks like Lambert Jesse potentially getting a bit of understeer on the brakes there. Meanwhile, Kana was moving to the left to try and take the racing line. Goodness gracious, that was massive. Well, that's Maxime Grenon's teammate out of the race thanks to this incident. Keep an eye on Jesse here. You could see he was tracking towards the outside there, or to the right, and at the same time the LMP3 was going driver's left. Well, Lambert's going to continue on, but unfortunately we have lost Kyle Harner from that.
Yeah, massive off, and it's something that can happen really quite easily here at Road Atlanta. As we've mentioned, it's going to be difficult for us not to see something like that happen again, but we hope that everyone can get through cleanly. But through turn 6 and turn 7, we're looking at the 2 leaders overall, and of course in the LMP3 category with Maxime Grenon and Boris Angelovando. Grenon with that great launch off of the line and good consistent couple of laps, not getting involved in that incident that took our pole sitter Daniel Zegers out of this fight, but Vando sticking it in there, still staying close, and the championship leader trying his best. This is the view from just behind. Oh my word, that is not nice. But I think, to be honest, you'd be very lucky to feel that they went left rather than right in that scenario.
Yeah, indeed. He was able to take the apex of turn 3 and continue on, though maybe a little bit flustered due to an incident happening right in front of him. Meanwhile, this is the battle between Stephen Lakota and the recovering Daniel Zegers. Obviously had fantastic pace, did Daniel, but over 1 lap, it doesn't really mean much in the context of a big race with plenty of traffic all the way around. It's all about management over the course of an hour race. He does make the move, does Daniel, back up into 11th place, but he's got a long road ahead of him if he wants to get into the top 10.
Boy, we're only about a third of the way through this race. We've already seen so much crazy action unfold. Is this a move down into turn 1? No, just an overtaking the GT4. Difficult to say from that front-on angle how close some of the drivers are to being side by side. I think that's a move as well through the S's. Actually, that's a move through the S's for Daniel Zegers, the man in P11 now, who is Stephen Lakota. Maybe it's Lando Tager. I think it actually was Tager having a bit of an incident with the driver, or one of the GT4s. Tumbling him down the field. We saw him go through the frame, but clearly getting caught up with the GT4s as they go too wide. There's a driver through the middle. That's bold. I'm not too sure who that was, but there was a driver getting through the middle. Daniel Oliver tried to pick his way through turn 10 and was collected by a GT4 who I'm not too sure was looking around at the racing line.
Yeah, so yeah, the GT4s are not saints either. I think there's going to be some big discussion between the classes after this one. For what it's worth, Tager made the mistake all by himself as he was trying to pass Maxime David, just took too much curb at turn 3. Meanwhile, looks like Matthew Wyckoff is going to have to make his way back past Darren Rutherford here. Let's see what he can do. Not able to get the move done where he was able to do it last time. And here comes the LMP3. They get through cleanly, but Rutherford's off at turn 1. Remember what I said on the pole lap. You hit that curb in the wrong way, you get sucked off the track coming out of turn 1. And that's just lost Darren Rutherford P5 again.
And he's been up and down like a yo-yo in this race so far, as Avando is trying to go up the inside for the lead here at turn number 10. Not going to be able to do it. The up and under is attempted by the championship leader in that number 222, looking to overtake the 333, but he can't do it through the final corner. Can he get the up and under though? Looking like he's got a little bit of overlap towards the opening turn. Will he slot back in? Will he go for the move? He's going for it, but he can't quite make it. We saw Grenon go wide earlier in the race. Not going to make the same mistake twice. And we will see Avando stay where he is. Mobin Khan coming into the pit lane. That's an interesting strategy call. We've seen him go long a couple of times. Oh, actually, no, that's a lie. We've seen him go early a couple of times. So, following up his strategy pattern from the season, we'll see if it works out for the third round of the season.
Yeah, we shall see. Mobin Khan is obviously very quick, but it seems mistake-prone. So, unfortunately, he's not going to have a great time here. Let's see if this early pit stop, though, will be able to transform his race, and we'll see what he can do to work his way forward a bit more. The problem is, you know, I honestly think overcut, undercut, at this track, it's basically irrelevant because there's GT4s all over the racetrack. As an LMP3 driver, I don't think it really matters what strategy you try to go for. You're going to come up against traffic regardless. The main factor is going to be how you manage that traffic.
Yeah, and we're seeing so many of the drivers manage it in different ways. Clearly doing a good job, Aiden Young and Aaron Myers. I hope you were sitting down for that information at home. They are doing an incredible job at the moment. 10 seconds between Aaron Myers and Cade Smith in second and in third, and they look like they're pulling that gap ever further. Clearly doing a good job at managing the LMP3s coming past. Similarly, Grenon and Avando doing a good job as Diaz drops a little bit further down the field. This is Aiden Young flashing up the lights with a lapped GT4, with a lap hitting LMP3 all in the way before turn 10. It all sorts itself out, and he gets into the chicane nice and cleanly and will dive back down the hill and towards the final corner once again. We're approaching half distance in this race as we see the next couple of cars make their way through, but it's all nice and calm towards turn 1, and Aiden Young looks, I'm sure it's not serene, but at the moment it looks nice and calm for him.
Yeah, indeed. He's got an all-right lead over Aaron Myers right now, 2 seconds, which is about the margin you want when there's cars trying to pass you at every opportunity. He'll be able to compromise a little bit if he needs to, but in the clear air, he's managing to work that gap out as Lambert Jesse once again with a massive off there coming into turn 5. Fortunately, it seems didn't hit the wall, so to speak. Just came to rest on the grass, so he'll get back going nicely. But yeah, Aiden Young currently on top in GT4 and making a good job of it. Just a nice bit of clear air for the time being. And if you want to be passed by LMP3s anywhere, it's this straight. It's nice and wide. There's no gray areas around here. They just pass you and that's it.
Yeah, and it's you're right in saying there's no grey areas here. It really is. There's nowhere safe on this circuit, is there? It is really a track which requires 100% concentration all the way through the hour-long race. And was that Aiden Young coming into the pit lane? May have just been taking a slightly tighter line through the final couple of corners. Up towards turn 10, we will run once again with our race leaders of Grenon and Avando. I say with Avando as well, but he's dropped 3 seconds off the back, and Grenon has a little bit of breathing room at the front now. Let's see if he can put pay to this advantage. Of course, Grenon comes into this race in the championship off the back of not the best opening couple of rounds. In fact, he got 41 points in the opener, which I think is down towards the back end of the top 10, and he didn't it wasn't here last week, so looking to pick up points, and he needs them. 19th in the championship coming into this race, and a ceiling, which means he can't even overtake the top 3 even if they crash out here.
Yeah, indeed. Difficult runnings early on in the season. Now, the reason that gap has extended, it was down at 10A and 10B. See, right here, Hugo, thank you so much on the replay. Avando coming up on a trio of GT4s that Grenon made his way through, and Avando, unfortunately, making contact with the McLaren on the way out. So that cost him an awful lot of time. Now, which McLaren that was necessarily, I'm not too sure, but nonetheless, we'll probably be not too happy with that. It looks like it was Kurt Ham who was spun around there out of 10B. So the number 33 immediately, I think, going to the pits there to get his stop out of the way. Meanwhile, Zach Hebert, the next LMP3 to take what we presume is a scheduled pit stop. Looks to me like 18 15 seconds or thereabouts is the pit stop length for LMP3s. Michael Diaz has also come into the pits too. Mobin Khan's pit stop was a lot longer. 18 seconds, remember, for the other two. 32 seconds for Mobin Khan. So I don't know if he's going to be able to gain much back.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting just to see, because of course with some of the others going longer, you know, they might come into a couple of more issues, but then equally, of course, it's not like that Mobin Khan's not going to find himself in traffic at all. This is Darren Rutherford though, the number 13 McLaren in the GT4s, trying to overtake Matthew Wyckoff, and Wyckoff is getting heavily offline into the S's, having to get it back under control, but losing a few tenths at least through there. They bounce their way over the curbs. It's not looking ideal for Wyckoff, again going wide as they make their way towards 6 and 7, and it's not looking comfortable at the moment, is it, for Wyckoff, a driver who comes into this race P2 in the championship, playing a bit of a supporting role to his teammate at the moment in this race, but definitely losing ground in terms of the championship to Young and Myers.
Yeah, indeed. Aiden Young's going to be making a good recovery from Suzuka, where he unfortunately missed the start of the race and then had a spin and ultimately finished, I think, outside the top 5 at least. So he's making a good recovery, is Aiden. But yeah, for Wyckoff, he wants to try and get out of the clutches of Darren Rutherford here.
Yeah, and it's difficult to get out of the clutches when you're making a couple of little mistakes, though, isn't it? So Matthew Wyckoff doing his best, but losing quite a bit of time on that last lap to Aiden Young, and, you know, by default, the likes of Aaron Myers and Cade Smith as well. Under halfway to go in this race. That has A, felt like it's flown by, and B, felt like it's taken a year because of all of the racing that we have seen. Interesting to see what will unfold in the second half of this race. We've got a lot of pit stops to go on, a lot of strategy decisions to be made, and still a lot of lapping of cars that could prove problematic for both the LMP3s and the GT4s with 29 minutes on the clock. But for Darren Rutherford, just looking to apply a little bit more of that pressure on Matthew Wyckoff, not as close as he was on the previous lap, and Matthew Wyckoff keeping those lines a little bit tighter this time round.
Yeah, indeed he is. Working his way nicely through turn 6. More pit stops, meanwhile, for the LMP3s. Lakota and Sanadakis making their way in. And I wanted to raise a point here. With the amount of contact we've been seeing, as Maxime Grenon, our leader, is going to come into the pits now. That's a big statement. Evando's going to continue on in the LMP3 lead. What we need to consider is the incident limit. Precision Racing League races have a 15 incident limit. You get a drive-through once you exceed 15 incidents, and then every 5 incidents after that is another black flag. I think there's more than a few drivers in this field who are in danger of exceeding that.
Yeah, that's another point. I mean, how many drivers in these top, you know, in the top 10s at the moment are going to be able to see the flag? Going to be an interesting thought throughout the race, and it's going to keep drivers on their toes right up until the final corner. Grenon, leader of an LMP3, has come into the pit lane. The pit stop time that is creeping up quite heavily. Out of the pit lane now, though, and should come out around Lando Tager. Indeed, there he is, perfectly timed on the pit exit, and he will get out ahead of this duo of GT4s and have a little bit of clean air on his outlap, which may be crucial. The driver he's next going to come up to in terms of the LMP3s, though, is our pole to Daniel Zegers, and that is not where Zegers envisioned himself being about half an hour ago.
Absolutely not. Yeah, Zegers is, well, he still hasn't taken his pit stop, so need to be careful of that, as Diaz is going to go for the move on Tager. Remember, Diaz has already taken his pit stop, so he is trying his best to march forward here. What he's got now is what he'll have towards the end of the race. I'd say that's over half of our LMP3 field that's taken their stops. We're still waiting on 6 cars to take their stops in that class. Our top 4 plus Lando Tager and Ian Starker. Diaz going to go defensive versus Lando here, and well, he's going to defend the position nicely, but a GT4 on the exit. It looks like that's Lambert Jesse there. A little bit of space, and it was enough for Diaz to get through, but Tager's going to try and fight him here.
Yeah, Taker's not going to give this one up. We've seen a couple of little sends from him so far, but not going to make it towards the opening corner. Another thing to think about, the sun is absolutely setting here at Road Atlanta, isn't it? The track is getting visibly darker. Visibility a little bit more tricky, and the rear end becoming a little bit tricky to control there for Lando Taker. Will lose a little bit of time and ground through the S's. I mean, as a driver, how much is that going to impact them? I mean, obviously there's not too much of a change, but the visibility is clearly dropping. Could that maybe prove a little bit problematic for a couple of these drivers, particularly when the lapping occurs?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, Road Atlanta doesn't have much in the way of trackside lighting. I mean, the Petit Le Mans does finish in the dark, so you are expected to know your way around this place at night time. But yeah, it's this sort of dusk sequence of the day where visibility is usually at its lowest. Once it gets dark and all you've got is your headlights to go off of, then sometimes visibility gets better, at least in the stream of your headlights. But when everything is just darkening and everything's sort of going towards the same sort of muddy orangey brown color, sometimes it can become difficult to pick your apexes and your turn-in points. Oh dear. That's not ideal for Maxime Grenon. No rear wing, and he's crashed at turn 1. Oh no!
That's massive, massive for the race, massive really for any kind of championship chance that Maxime Grenon had. That is absolutely huge. We'll have to find out what happened to our, I mean, fair to say, long-time race leader through the final corner. This is turn 1. Oh my word, gets caught out by the driver. That is the final corner and loses the rear wing there. Going to run onto turn 1. He's not going to have any downforce, and I suspect the car loses out from underneath him, but this is what happened. Goes for the inside and then realizes that is a closing gap. Oh my word.
That move wasn't on, if I'm honest. Michael Terrafino in the Mercedes there. I don't think he was expecting Grenon to go for the move at the corner there. And, well, no rear wing. Damage to the rear, and Grenon's race is over. But yeah, if you're Michael Terrafino, you know, you're entitled to take your line into the corner. He'd already turned in when Grenon was trying to get alongside. Yeah, not ideal there for either driver, but fortunately for Rutherford, for Terrafino, he's able to continue on from that, but that would have been a very scary moment for him.
Yeah, and I think that was just a little bit too opportunistic, wasn't it, as you said, from Maxime Grenon, and he is not going to be a happy man with himself, at least, at the moment. But it gives Boris Angel Lavando an incredible chance of taking the win here at Road Atlanta. He, of course, won last time out when we were at Suzuka, and he's looking like he's going to increase that championship advantage, which, to be fair, coming into this race stood at 0. So he's looking to put anything between himself and the drivers behind, but we'll see what happens when he makes his pit stop. And yeah, going to be so key to see if Michael Diaz can get there or thereabouts, but I think he is going to be a little bit too far back on our championship leader. But that race, I mean, the race has turned on its head completely in the last couple of minutes, hasn't it? Particularly in the LMP3s. We're still waiting to see pit stops in the GT4s, but I think it would take something quite extraordinary for one of Aiden Young or Aaron Myers to have something happen to them, considering that how consistent they are and how safe they seem to play it.
Yeah, indeed. Well, into the pits goes Chase Wilson. And, you know, I think there is an argument for an LMP3 to be going for the move at the final corner. But I reckon if you're not alongside at the turn-in point, it's probably best to stay behind. Yeah, you're going to be compromising your line, of course. You're going to be losing time. But I think that's better than going over the curb and crashing out, as we just saw happen there for Maxime. Well, what we're going to see from here on out is Boris Ovando trying to manage this gap now. He and Daniel Zegers are the only two cars in the LMP3 class left to take their pit stops. So Let's see how long they decide to run this. And sometimes in the LMP3s, we've seen them go for very late pit stops. We've seen the majority of the field take their pit stops before and around the halfway mark. Have a look at this battle as well. Lando Tiga currently sitting in 9th spot. Zanadakis and Mobin Khan up behind him, with Mobin obviously trying to recover from that probably unexpected, very long pit stop. Got 2 cars to make his way past.
Yeah, let's see how quickly he can negotiate them, if he can indeed. Through we go into turn 7. Little bit of a look up the inside from Sanidakis. Nothing going there. And Mobin Khan looks like he needs to get through, and he will go for the outside line. We're going to see a 3-wide moment, are we? No, we're not. Just about going to avoid it, but Mobin Khan into the slipstream, ducking and diving, trying to get as much as he can from the air advantage on the back of Sanidakis. Outside line will be his into turn 10. He's got the slipstream as well. Can he make it all the way around the outside? Gonna have to tip his way all the way through inside for the second part of the chicane. Whoa. But he's not gonna have the traction, and a big old slide he can just about save. We'll see him stay behind Sanidakis for now. Through the final corner they bounce, but Mobin Khan's still looking for P10.
Yeah, indeed. Well, here we go. Try your best here to just manage your pace, manage the traffic. We've had pit stops come out now for, looks like, Aiden Young from the lead of GT4. 22.4 seconds stop for him as Boris Ovando pits from the lead of LMP3. So let's see what Aiden Young can do here. That LMP3 fight just behind him. This is going to be difficult. You know, you emerge back out onto the racetrack. You've got to recalibrate once again. You've got to get back into race mode after that little breather you take at a standstill.
Yeah, this is frantic racing. We've seen it all the way through, but clearly drivers knowing that their time is now to make moves if they want to progress up the order. Aiden Young has made his pit stop. Aaron Myers is making his pit stop. This is going to be the 35 seconds or so which could decide the race in the GT4s, and we'll await to see it. Mobin Khan, though, inside run this time at turn 10. Can he control it now? Yes, he can. And the 2-time pole sitter this time, this season, I should say, and championship contender moves his way up into P10 and can start to now chase after some of the rest of the drivers that he needs to be overtaking if he wants to try and claim any kind of points towards Boris Jalabando, who looks very competent and confident right now.
Well, pit stops are now complete there for the LMP3 class, and you know what? It's worked out brilliantly for the Solpec Precision Racing team. Ovando and Diaz now running 1-2 as Aaron Myers has taken his stop, and you just saw Aiden Young disappearing over the hill there ahead of him. The gap between Myers and Young now sitting at round about 3 seconds, so we'll have to wait and see how that works out for them. There's still 18 minutes left in this race, and still plenty of chances for LMP3 traffic to affect them, to say nothing of GT4 traffic when we see Lambert Jesse off the circuit there just for a couple of moments ahead of Aaron Myers. This is going to be an intense battle to the end.
Yeah, this is going to be 18 minutes of pure hard racing between two drivers who know each other so well and have been rivals for such a long time as well. This is exactly the kind of racing we want to see. You can see Aiden Young in the background is Aaron Myers, and they are going to be going at it towards the end. And without any kind of incident between them, they will finish 1 and 2. Just what will the order be? And can Aiden Young close that championship lead of Aaron Myers just to the barest of margins? 18 minutes to go, though. Aiden Young looks confident and comfortable for the time being. That gap stands at 3.5 seconds, but we've seen, haven't we, throughout this race how little moments can happen. You can lose a second here and there, and we cannot rule out that happening for Aiden Young in the last few minutes.
Yeah, indeed. Well, it looks like the battles in LMP3 have stretched out a bit, but that's definitely not the case here in GT4. Darren Rutherford leading this fight as Justin Bragan and Maxime David trying to work their way through, I believe, a lapped car, and this is looking very intense as well. It's a battle of the Germans, BMW versus Mercedes, chasing down the British McLaren. This is going to be a lovely battle to try and get our way through. I mean, I'm looking at the exits from a lot of these cars, and I keep thinking, is there going to be a move at turn 3? It's not a track where it's not a corner, sorry, where you usually see passes being made.
Seen some mistakes being made though, there haven't we? And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again. That is such an aggressive line. I mean, clearly it's just maybe put Darren Rutherford off his line, but Justin is really looking for this move. And this is getting aggressive, isn't it? These drivers want these positions, and you can't really argue with them because they want these points on the board early stage in the championship still. Third round of 9. They want to put themselves right into the picture, but we are seeing some developing stories, not just in this GT4 class, but in the LMP3 class, with Avando maybe extending his lead, Aiden Young in the GT4s tightening that championship advantage. It is really looking like we've got a good season ahead of us. 6 rounds are upcoming, and this kind of race, Reese, where we're seeing lots of incidents and, you know, drivers may be thinking that they're going to have to take their drop rounds here, may become really significant by the end of the season if, with the drop rounds that we have, with only one of them being allowed to be dropped, this can't happen again for some of these guys. They can't drop another race. This could become significant. Mobin Khan can't drop this race in his head because he wants to get back to the championship contenders, and he's up into P9 inside line. Very smartly done into turn 10.
Oh, not smartly done on the exit though. Had to back out of it behind the Cayman, and well, that was a good recovery at the very least, and he hasn't lost the position, so I guess I'll shut up.
But we'll see them run through turn 1, and it will be Mobin Khan who has a nice bit of clear track in front of him. It won't last long, but he can, for the next minute or so, try and drive away from the guys behind him. This is what happened to Ian Stark in the number 20. Little bit of a bump over the curb, and a perfectly perpendicular spin. No, but very well executed. Shame that he won't get anything in terms of marks for that, only just a bit of a loss in time. But yeah, Ian Stark, a couple of times, it's the same mistake we've seen quite a few drivers make, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed, and we've seen Starker do that exact same thing before. He seems to be having a lot of trouble with the exit of turn 5 in this race, but you know, he's just one of many who have had plenty of issues in this race. It's been chaotic. It's been full of carnage. This LMP3 and GT4 race. I think a lot of drivers are going to be glad to see the back of Road Atlanta after this.
Yeah, I don't think many drivers are going to be too displeased to go to the Hungaroring, but then again, the Hungaroring isn't quite what you'd call a driver's favourite, is it? So maybe a bit of a dry spell in terms of the happiness of some of the drivers with the circuits that we're going to, but hey, we're loving it up here in the booth, and I really hope you guys at home are enjoying it as well. 14 minutes are on the clock though. Still this tight battle runs down the hill through the S's in the GT4s. We are seeing a couple of little looks being thrown up the inside at the moment. Bragan and David really going at it, but they are getting so close, running towards turn 6 and 7. Now, is there a move to be made here? You'd say no, but definitely going to be looking for it down in towards this heavy braking zone. With Mobin Khan coming through as well, you can't think about a battle too much in one class because there's LMP3s coming through, there's a flashing of the lights, and you just can't breathe, can you, Reese?
No, certainly not. It's brought the trio all together for the time being. Maxime David still trying to find his way past Justin Bragan, who's actually made a great run up through this field. He's one of the GT4s with the most positions gained. So we'll see if he can get past one more car here. And Darren Rutherford. Oh no, a little bit of contact there. Bragan gets into the back of him, and unfortunately losing momentum on the way through the corner. Maxime David says, thank you very much, I'll take that. But Rutherford, I think that little bit of contact put him over the incident limit. He's just come into the pits. I think that is a drive-through.
And that's gutting for him. You could almost hear, with the moment that we saw, you could almost hear in your head the wheel moving to try and hold that car, just about keeping it in a straight line. Could have been worse, but for Rutherford, that is not good news to come down pit road. He's coming to the end. Where will he come out? Coming around this battle, this train, towards the back end of the top 10. There is Rutherford emerging, and I think he's going to be behind Gignac, he's going to be behind Caelan Tobin, and indeed he's in 11th place, but still chance with 12 minutes to go to get himself back inside that top 10 with two drivers really not that far in front.
All right, keep our eyes peeled here on Michael Diaz, just making his way gently past these GT4s, as gently as you can. Honestly, Oh man, like my brain is overloaded at the moment. There's just so many moves being made. There's so much that has gone on. Now we have to take incident limits into account too, as many drivers are very, very close. Man, I don't know.
And this is, yeah, I don't think we can make any predictions for the end of this race. It could all crumble before our eyes. All that we know over the first 15 minutes might disappear in the final 10, and we're going to have to relearn everything we know about this series and this circuit. But through the final corner we go once again. This battle at the back end of the top 10 raging on still as they run up towards the opening corner for what will be, what we're nearing the 30th time now, as the short lap takes itself into effect. Sanadakis is ahead of Mobin Khan. That's a move that's just been made. You could just see it on the tower. As Mobin Khan's struggling today, fair to say, he's not had the best of days and continues to struggle. Darren Rutherford needs to get these places, at least to rectify a bit of his race, which he feels will have been lost with the drive-through, but he's struggling to get towards the back, still got time, but it's one thing to catch, of course, another thing to overtake, especially at Road Atlanta, where the opportunities we have seen are thin on the ground, and turn 10 is your best bet, and even then, you're going to struggle to make it down the inside, or definitely around the outside, going to be tricky.
Yeah, indeed. Kalen Tobin, meanwhile, in the Aston Martin here, he's had a very tough race. Remember, he was taken out in spectacular fashion when our LMP3 pole sitter Daniel Zegers tried to come through on him, and well, he's made a good recovery since then and standing a chance of getting past the teammates for these two positions, as Mobin Khan is the next LMP3 driver to have a problem through turn 5. Gets back going cleanly, but that was a little bit close with cars coming up on him. Here we go then. Kalen Tobin looking for the move now. Gabriel Gignac will have to go defensive. Oh, that was a bit of a late move to the inside there, and Kalen's going to go for it. Big send at turn 1, but it doesn't work out for him. Gignac will hold on to the position, and that little bit of action has brought Darren Rutherford right into it. Rutherford just coming out of the pits for a incident limit penalty that he arguably didn't deserve, but he stands a chance of gaining a couple more positions out of this as long as he can keep it clean.
It's going to try and be a little bit opportunistic, it's fair to say, on the back of these two. 9 minutes left to go. There's an LMP3 ducking and diving. He's got through 1 and through 2 and through 3. Through to the inside comes Kalen Tobin. That is the opportunism we were looking for. And what a move from Kalen Tobin. Snuck up the inside when he knew the LMP3 would make a vacuum of space. And through comes Rutherford. Outside at turn 7. Have you seen that in a long time? Because I have not. What a move from Rutherford. He's not going to make it 2, surely.
Oh, you never know. He'll be on the racing line coming into 10A and 10B, and that's arguably where you want to be. You can defend the outside line. Will Kalen send it? Oh, there's contact and all 3 cars are off the circuit. Oh, no. It ends in tears.
And I mean, if I was the cameraman, I'd be petrified in that half a second. They came straight towards the camera position. But for Darren Rutherford, his eyes widened, didn't they? He got onto that straight. He got past 1. He was getting past 2. And then at the final moment, contact. Oh, so there's an overlap clearly there on the back of Tobin, who moves across and then gets turned into Rutherford. I mean, that's so unlucky. All 3 of them. I think the front 2 will argue what was oh my word, what was David doing? But they all came into each other, didn't they?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I could see Gabriel Gignac just moving to driver's left a little bit towards Kalen Tobin. See, right before the contact is made there. And then Tobin, I think, just a little jerk to the right, and then the contact is made. And from that point on, Tobin loses control. Rutherford was the real innocent victim in all of that. He had nothing to do with that.
It's gutting for him, especially considering he was only there because of the penalty, and considering that he realistically had made those 2 places and he got it snatched away in front of his eyes. So gutting for Darren Rutherford. It has not been his day, yeah, we hope that he can come back stronger next week. So yeah, unlucky for Darren, but I'm sure he'll be back. that kind of incident, we've got to think about it, also gives a big advantage to some other drivers who were sitting in behind and just saw 3 cars in front of them. The driver that I'm talking about particularly, Jeremy Manella, up to P8 now, doing a great job now and looking to get towards the top 7. But you also have to consider in the next couple of drivers in that order. And of course, they are Tristan Cadet and Tristan Cadet, Gabriel Gignac obviously getting caught up in it. Matt Benson now was a little bit closer to the back end of the top 10, but drivers that we just haven't mentioned all race long may find themselves in the top 10 by the checkered flag.
Yeah, they may very well do. We're looking at Gwinnett and Brennan at the moment, and it looks like Brennan made the move on Gwinnett very recently. This is a tight battle between these two, as Ovando is going to make his way through on them, and he's passed even before the braking zone for turn 3. That's exactly what you want to see, both as an LMP3 and a GT4 driver. You know, from the driver's perspective, you know, as long as you're alongside at the turn-in point, then you have the right to the corner. So in any case, it looks like the battle will continue on from there. All right, we're about to enter the final 5 minutes of this race. It is on between Brennan and Gwinnett still. Keith up 8 spots. Of course, there's more than a few LMP3s in the midst of all of that. And Willie Brennan, he's been struggling to try and make up places, only up 2 really. And it looks like for the time being, he does have the pace advantage over Gwinnett. That gap is extending.
Look who's not too far behind these guys. That yellow and black Mercedes machine of Aiden Young, who was looking to put a lap on these guys, and they're not running far down the field. I mean, Aiden Young has a minute to P9. Everyone up to P14 has been lapped. I mean, you've got to remember how big the field was here. It was over 20 cars, and the fact that 23 cars to be exact, but the fact that he's lapped that many cars is incredible. It also puts into perspective how much carnage and chaos that we've seen today. But definitely, I think lapping up to P12 is an absolute possibility for Aiden Young, because he can see them directly in front of him as they run in towards the final 5 minutes. And, you know, if I was running nearly a lap down in P12, not having the best of time, you know, I might just say, yeah, mate, just go through. I don't want to do another lap of this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I was enjoying the lead that Aiden Young is enjoying, I'd just be like, yeah, all right, let's get this over and done with. For the time being, Aiden Young holding on to the lead over Aaron Myers by 7.5 seconds, so he has more than enough margin to do that. In fact, a little bit of drama here. Oh dear. That was a bit of an interesting re-entry from Robert McGeehan there in the McLaren, and Keith Gwinnett will make his way through cleanly there, but that's a little bit of drama that Aiden Young wouldn't have wanted. Thank goodness for that 7.5 second margin.
Yeah, and there was Keith lapping Robert and Aiden lapping Keith there, all in that one corner in the same class, with only 4 minutes to go. So weird parallels and drivers finding each other on the road that have been far apart for quite a while. But they should separate themselves out as they have, and we've only got 4 more minutes to go. Boris Lavando, we haven't talked about him in quite a while. This is Daniel Zegers, the hitter, who I think was wishing we weren't talking about him after... it's fair to say the race he has had, which has been not what he was hoping for. I want to mention Boris Lavando because we haven't talked about him in a while, because he's been in the lead and there's been mistakes from drivers around him. But that lead to Michael Diaz is 2.2 seconds, and it is falling at a rate of knots. Is there a chance we get a change for the lead in the LMP3s in the last 3 minutes?
I think there is a fair chance. You know, I've commentated Ovando and Diaz as teammates before, back in the Super Formula series, and they certainly like to race each other hard. No team orders at Selpec Precision Racing, so we'll see what Boris can do to hold Diaz off. Both of them incredible drivers, and some of the most successful at PRL and the sports car categories. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Last lap time for Ovando was a 1:15.9, and meanwhile Diaz is running qualifying pace, a 1:13.9 on the last lap.
is right there. I mentioned it was 2.2. It's now down to 1.3. Michael Diaz is in the fight for the win here. He was not about 10 minutes ago. All of a sudden, we have a fist fight on our hands for the third race win of the season. Of course, Boris Angel Ovando has a win. The other win has gone to Adam Brockway, who we've said isn't able to make it the last couple of weeks. But Michael Diaz, Boris Angel, does he have damage for the 222? Because he's dropped so much time in the last few laps that we have to bring it into question.
Yeah, well, remember, we saw that onboard replay of Ovando some time ago when he was trying to make his way through the GT4 traffic behind, I believe it was... who was it actually? It was Maxime Grenon who was in the lead at the time. Remember, Grenon made their way through the GT4 traffic at this very corner, and Ovando ended up clipping a McLaren. Maybe that has affected his straight line speed a little bit. Also got to keep pit stops in mind too. Ovando with a 17.5 second pit stop versus Diaz's 18.2 second stop. So what that tells me is Ovando might have underfueled the car a little bit, and he's trying to save towards the end.
Yeah, and it's going to be tight because he's going to have another 2 laps to go here, I believe. They're going to get to the end of this lap with a little bit of time still left on the clock. He's going to get held up as well as Ovando through this through the opening part of the lap. He's going to get the release off the corner that he desires. But Michael Diaz, he hasn't been in the fight for the last half an hour. All of a sudden, he might get the win through turn 6 and turn 7. Is he going to follow his teammate through? No, but the wide-going GT4 means that he can slip up the inside and get a very good exit. I wouldn't say it's good enough to make a move at turn 10, but he's surely going to have one more chance on the final lap.
Yep, 30 seconds left on the clock, and that is just enough time to get to the line and start one more lap. We'll have to wait and see on this. 25 seconds. It's going to be marginal. Hang on, will Ovando maybe slow down and get the checkered flag? I'm not too sure at this point. 15 seconds. Now they're going to make it to the line. They will make it to the line. It will be one more lap here at Road Atlanta. On board with Diaz. He's going to try the move at turn 1. Ovando a bit slower down the front straight. The teammates are side by side through the corner, and they make contact, and Diaz is around.
The slightest of contacts, but Diaz has been collected on the inside, just the front left being clipped, but it's enough to take him out of contention. And unless something dramatic happens to Boris Angel Ovando, he should be the one to take home the third win of the season. He's second, and he will put a bit of a gap between himself and anybody else in the championship. But what a moment. Ovando went out, he swung around the outside, and he had much better apex speed. And Michael Diaz, it's difficult to say exactly what happened mid-corner, but there was contact. Diaz has been half spun around. He won't be in the fight for the win, and Ovando has got 2 more corners to go. Surely this is his.
Yeah, surely. Ovando just needs to cruise to victory from this point. It doesn't look like he's in any danger in terms of fuel. Diaz, I think, was just on an absolute ripper of a run there. But through the last couple of corners, away we go. For Solpec Precision Racing, there might be some discussions between Boris and Michael after this one, but Boris is the one who comes out on top.
2 wins in 3. Our championship leader after the third round of the season here at Road Atlanta is the 222 Boris Ovando with his second win, adding maybe going to be the 222 next week. We will never know. Michael Diaz finished in P2, a 1-2 for the team, and Zach Hebert, again, great consistency for him in the early stages of the season. He'll be P2 in the championship with a P3, but in the GT4s, it was Aiden Young versus Aaron Myers again. Were we shocked about that? No. It's been close all race long. They haven't really had much of a fight, but Aiden Young looks like he's going to cruise to victory here, Reese.
Yeah, it's going to be another cruise to victory like what we saw many times last season for the fiercely forward Mercedes 427. Well, Aiden Young back on top again after taking victory at Indianapolis and unfortunately falling by the wayside at Suzuka. This is going to be a great points haul for him.
Yeah, and another great win for Aiden Young. Is looking to really put a little bit of, I'd say distance between himself and Aaron Myers, but of course they come into this race with Aaron Myers leading the way, so Aiden Young can only close that gap. I think it'll come down to about 5 points, so not much in it. Lando Tager is not fate. Well, I don't. Oh, has he run out of fuel?
I think he might have.
Run out of fuel? Oh no.
Yeah, very slow.
On the final corner even.
Yeah, it was really, that's not ideal there for Lando Tega, but difficult race coming to an end there. So let's see what it's like here. Listen in, and he's definitely slowing down. Yeah, he's fully out of fuel. Didn't fill the car up enough, it seems.
It's gutting that he didn't get to the crest of the next hill, because he would have been able to roll down the hill to the line, but shame for Lando Tega. He will finish not where he would feel like he deserves to be. He will be a little bit further down the order, but gutting for him. He goes straight on, and I think he was just praying that that car got up the hill, even though it never was going to get there. What a race. What an hour's worth of racing we've just seen here at Road Atlanta. We didn't know where to look, but in the end, we looked at Bryson Gilavando winning the race. Not by much, though. Even with that half spin, Michael Diaz was a second and a half off come the checkered flag. In a Solbeck Precision Racing 1-2. We'll have to find out how happy they are with each other in a couple of minutes' time, but it was Zach Hebert who was probably the happiest of the three in third place. Christian Garrett and Chase Wilson fourth and fifth, with Fernando Rodriguez, Lucas Wallace, and Nikos Sanidakis the only other drivers on the lead lap. Lando Tega, of course, well, a lap down, but he didn't finish with the fuel, and Stephen Lakota were inside the top 10. Before we roll on to Ian Starker and Mobin Khan, our two-time pole sitter so far this season, having a difficult day. Daniel Ziegers, our pole sitter today, having a difficult day, finishing in 13th, with Daniel Oliver, Jason Drescher, Maxime Grenon, Eric Benson, Kyle Harner, and Andre Jameson. Jameson didn't even start the race, the rest of them not finding the checkered flag. Over in the GT4s, it was Aiden Young and Aaron Myers 1 and 2 again, with Aiden Young coming out on top this time in the third instalment of what should hopefully be 9 between those two. Cade Smith was third, and they were the only three on the lead lap, but of course the others were caught by our overall race leader Michael Terrafino, Matthew Wyckoff and Maxime David with the top 6. Justin Bragg and Jeremy Manella, Tristan Cadet and Gabriel Gignac were in the top 10. I believe Matt Benson and Willie Brennan were also both on the lead lap, and Keith Gwinnett was lapped on the circuit by our GT4 winner. Kurt Ham, Steve Gow were the other drivers a lap down, with Ewan Brown, I should say, Travis Pruitt and Robert McGeehan 2 laps down, lap Jesse 4 and Roy Brown 7. And then come the drivers that didn't really have good races at all: Caelan Tobin, Darren Rutherford and Jean-Sebastien Bedard. But there we go, 49 laps worth of racing here at Road Atlanta. And I do believe, Reese, we can drag into Boris Avando into the call. We can indeed. And Boris is here with you to talk you through the race.
Yeah, indeed, Boris. Wow, what a victory once again for you. It ended up coming to blows a little bit with Michael on the final lap, though.
I did, yeah. He had a lot of pace, and traffic was very kind to him, and I was just taking it too easy, I think. And then it came down to that 2 side-by-side contact. We looked at it. It looked like netcode. So good thing he was able to catch the car, and we still were able to finish 1-2.
Yeah, indeed. Good result for the team there. But, you talk about being too careful. I think that's probably the best way to go about it at this particular round. It was a really tough track for traffic.
You're right. And the moment I decided not to be careful, not to be like extra cautious, I had an incident with a GT4 and just a misjudged. They were too wide out of the chicane, and I set it up to get back all the way to the inside, but then noticed that he was like all the way to the inside, and then I tried to loop it to the outside. If I just been more careful and just sacrifice more time, then. But hindsight's 20/20, and sometimes those incidents happen, and I apologize, and that's all I can do.
Yeah, of course. Well, we're moving on to, I believe, the Hungaroring for the next round of the season. And that's probably going to be a track where traffic is also going to be a bit of a problem, particularly in the middle sector.
Definitely. It's probably going to be tougher than here because he's just limited with traction, downforce. And it's very tough places to pass. There's only one line through that middle sector for the most part, and the GT4's minimum apex speed is really low. So yeah, it's going to be probably worse than here, and I'm going to be just extra cautious. Just that's the name of the game, I think.
Yeah, indeed. Well, nonetheless, victory for you, Boris, and it's looking like a pretty good season so far. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Boris Ovando there, and looks like we're going to have a chance to chat to his teammate, Dara. Michael Diaz is with you.
Yeah, welcome in, Michael. Congratulations on the P2. Of course, unfortunate with that last lap incident, but talk us through your pace towards the end, because you really turned the wick up, didn't you?
Yeah, it seems so. I don't know, to be honest, where it came from. I was kind of struggling in quali and early on, but car felt good there at the end, and kind of managed to get some luck with traffic and close the gap a little bit there at the end.
Obviously a good day for you in the championship, of course, overtaking Lando Tager and Stephen Lakota to get up into P4 and really closing that gap to Mobin Khan and a little bit to Zach Hebert as well. You must be feeling good going into the next couple of rounds. I mean, how's the confidence around the team with yourself and Boris, of course, doing such a good job at the moment?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, we just want to bring the most points for the team, and whatever we each get individually, it's a bonus. As for me, had a rough couple of rounds at the beginning, but hopefully it turns around and we could string some good results and see where it takes us.
Of course, next round we're going to go into the Hungaroring. Is it a track you're looking forward to? It's not necessarily a driver's favourite, but I know some drivers do quite enjoy it.
It's a nice track, but I'm not really looking forward to it in this car. This car tends to understeer a lot, and it's not my favourite thing in the world. So it would just be damage limitation for me, I guess. Boris is pretty quick though, so we'll probably have a good race.
It's going to be a challenge, but wish you all the luck. Thank you, Mike, for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week after the Hungaroring race.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys, for the broadcast and being here every night. I'll talk to you later.
Michael, great to hear from our P2 man in the LMP3s. There we go, got it out in the end. And to boot as well, Reese, you've got our P3 man, Zach Hebert.
Yeah, great run, Zach. Starting in 10th up to 3rd. It was all about survival.
Yes, absolutely. I'll be honest, I didn't really have any high hopes for tonight. I figured probably within the top 6, but stuck to basically surviving traffic, staying out of incidents, and just trying to keep a consistent pace, keeping with the person in front of me. And again, there must have been some major incidents around the pit cycle, kind of around halfway to put me up there, but hey, we'll take the result nonetheless.
Yeah, indeed you will. What was your opinion on the traffic here? Because yeah, we saw many LMP3s falling by the wayside with some arguably misjudged moves through the middle sector in the first part of the lap. How much care were you taking through those S's? I
mean, there's a lot of points where you can get a run if you get a good exit out of turn 3 and you're close enough, and you can go around the outside. But like I said, but once you get towards that first right-hander as you're going down the hill, there's not much place for the GT4 to go, just because they don't have the aero grip to, grip. I mean, they're sliding through there as it is. So it's really just about being patient. And I mean, again, when it comes to that, just save fuel. It helps you at the pit stop. And again, I was just being super careful, super respectful, just because, again, I wasn't expecting anything. I just figured it would pan out towards the end of the race with trying to save fuel around the traffic. The traffic really wasn't all that terrible. You kind of had little bits and pieces of GT4s as the race went on. Like I said, that first go through is when they're all bunched together. So either you're going to make up a lot of time either with the guy in front of you or stuff like that, or they're going to, the guy behind you is going to catch you, because it just depends on where you catch traffic. But like I said, it wasn't too terrible. Again, you just have to be patient with that first kind of 2 go-arounds once the track, once traffic actually spreads out, and then you can kind of navigate it and start to push a little more towards the end of the race.
Well, brilliant analysis, and that's exactly what got you this podium here tonight, Zach. Congratulations, and hopefully you get a chance to chat to you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Zach Hebert in the 511 there. And finally, Dara, we're going to round things off with our GT4 winner, Aiden Young.
Yeah, Aiden, welcome back to the victory circle. Another incredible drive for you tonight. First pole of the season as well. I mean, how was the pace feeling tonight? Because it looked like you had it relatively under control.
Well, I mean, I felt it was pretty good. I was a little stressed because last week was my birthday, and I wanted to just spend the week enjoying my birthday week. So I didn't do too much practice, which wasn't really ideal. But I tried to put in as much practice as I could on Sunday night, and then this morning after finishing my homeschool, just tried to keep focused on the night and kept my head down during the race, just kept focusing forward. I knew Aaron was there for the first couple laps, so I was like, if I don't break away from him, this might not be the win I'm looking for. So I was like, I gotta do something. And then for the first couple laps, I was struggling with the car. Like in practice it felt amazing, but then when you swap to the race, I'm not sure what changed, but like the car did not feel like it was underneath me as good. Like I'd get on the gas and it'd just want to slide. So that's why I was worried about Aaron. But then I just saw the traffic as like, okay, I could try to use the traffic as a way to pick him off basically and build a gap.
And you did build a gap, and it was relatively comfortable. Also, belated happy birthday to you on that one. Looking forward, though, you're closing that gap to Aaron in the championship. I'm sure it's going to go right down to the wire. Do you feel like you're going to have a bit of an advantage when we go to the Hungaroring next week, or is it a track you're not necessarily looking forward to too much?
I like Hungaroring, and I don't like Hungaroring. It's kind of one of those tracks for me. It can either be good or it can either be bad. It just depends on how much I practice it. It's like one day it could be really good, the next day it could be really bad. That's how that track works. I think it works like that for everyone. Everybody has a bad day and a good day there, no matter what car you drive. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, definitely. I think it'll be fun, but we'll see. It may be a little bit of chaos with the LMP3s in there, but you know, we'll see how it pans out. And yeah, I'm happy with the win this week after, you know, what happened last week where my computer crashed on the starting grid and I couldn't load back in time, so that was kind of frustrating. But you know, I'm just gonna have to put in as much work as I can because, you know, Aaron's a fast guy, and if I don't get my act together through the rest of the season, it might be tight. It might be very tight.
Hey, but we look forward to it up here in the booth, and we look forward to speaking to you again, maybe next week after another good performance with Aiden Young. Congratulations, another win this season at the Road Atlanta circuit. I'm going to stop doing that.
Gotta mix up there.
But Aiden, thanks for joining us, and we'll speak to you again next week.
Yeah.
Right, brilliant. Nice to speak to Aiden Young there, and it is Road Atlanta. I will bash this out of me somehow. It's because it'd be nice if they made the name slightly more different, but here we are. Hungaroring, very different. You can tell it's in Hungary. It starts with Hungaro, doesn't it? So, I mean, one to look forward to, Reed. But, I mean, the track is somewhat similar to what we had here at Road Atlanta, so I think we can expect a little bit more of the same.
Yeah, it's, you know, we're looking at the front straight right now. That's pretty much the only place where you can reasonably get past someone cleanly, aside from a couple other places on the circuit. For the majority of it, it's tight, it's twisty, there's big curbs, and there's not much space. It's quite a narrow circuit, so I think there'll be plenty of lessons learned in both classes here for the Hungaroring. But that's going to wrap us up for tonight, Dara.
It will indeed, and what a race it has been. An hour's worth of incredible action here at Road Atlanta, and we can't wait for next week at the Hungaroring. Of course, don't forget PRL action all the way through the week. Make sure you tune in here on RaceSpotTV. We will see you tomorrow for the GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series, but next week for the LMP3 GT4 Challenge here on RaceSpotTV.